Hi, everybody, and welcome to the start of week 3. I have enjoyed reading your week 2 reflections, especially the part about what surprised you from our course readings and materials about gifted characteristics. It's usually the case that people comment on the fact that they're surprised that students can be gifted and also have a learning disability, so twice exceptional. So that's an important sort of aha that a lot of people have. My own son, Rob, who is studying in Russia now, is twice exceptional, and he had quite a struggle because he, like so many other gifted students, his disability was the first thing people noticed and focused on, and all kinds of energy was put into remediating his weaknesses. Fortunately for him, he was also identified as gifted very young, and that did wonders for his self-esteem. Because as you can imagine, the children who are only when we're only focusing on their weaknesses, that's what they think of themselves. They see themselves as not able to do what other children can do. And so when we can recognize their gifts and nurture those as early as possible, that makes such a big difference. Leadership was another characteristic that surprised some of you. Many gifted students, as many of you pointed out, do demonstrate leadership skills from a young age. Not all, but some. Also, the self-awareness thing. Some gifted students do not possess that self-awareness, but many do. And then underachievement. And many of you, and this always happens in this course, say, well, I always thought that, gifted students were excelling in all areas. They were the super achievers. I didn't think about the underachieving part. But that's very often the case when gifted students are not challenged appropriately, they turn off. And many of you commented on seeing students who are sort of apathetic in school, they don't seem to care, or they get angry and even maybe violent because they're not being sufficiently challenged and engaged in school. So, as you all pointed out in your discussions, it's critical to recognize these strengths and figure out ways to accommodate them right away. Um, Gifted students are not always the teacher pleasers, although the students that are the teacher pleasers are usually the ones that are recommended for gifted testing right away. I still find some teachers who will not refer a child for gifted assessment if the child is not behaving in the classroom. And if we think about that, sometimes the worst behaving students are the most highly gifted ones. They're misbehaving because they're not being challenged. So teachers make such a mistake when they say, well, I'm not going to refer this child for gifted services until he shapes up. It's probably not going to happen. So we need to get the word out, and training teachers, just as you're being trained, is one key step in changing things. Also, many of you mentioned English as second language learners. Those kids are rarely identified early because, like twice exceptional students, we're focusing on where they're not, with the areas of weakness or the areas where they still need to develop these strengths, whether it's in reading or spoken language or both. But there are tests that are nonverbal intelligence tests, as you will learn. You'll learn more about that in the assessment course. But we can test students who don't speak English and determine if they are in fact gifted and just not speaking English. So those students are often overlooked and underestimated. Depression and anxiety is such a big deal with so many gifted students, and that really stems from often perfectionism and really high expectations for these students. Once we know, they know that how bright they are. And sometimes they really have a fear of failure and they will start underachieving. because they don't want to risk not doing as well as they think they should do or other people think they should do. And we'll learn more about that in the next few weeks. Um, and another point that you all brought up was that gifted students are not necessarily going to be gifted in all areas. It's just like any of us, we're good at some things and not so good at others. So we shouldn't expect them to be good at everything. And but sometimes we do. We think just because they're bright, they should also be socially adept or mature or sensitive or whatever. And different strengths don't necessarily go hand in hand. So, this week, you are going to learn more about some of the exceptional behaviors, characteristics of gifted students, and we'll focus on counseling needs for gifted students. There's a lot in the chapter about asynchronous development. So, in other words, maybe you're really bright, you're on a really high intellectual level, but you're 6 and you're in a child body and you're doing childish things, which is what you're supposed to be doing. You're losing your temper, you're blurting out, you're impulsive, you're all these things, and you're also bright, but it leads to all kinds of trouble with the adults that are trying to help shape you and understand you and nurture you. When we don't understand that they should have asynchronous development, sometimes we do harm unintentionally. So we'll learn a lot about that this week. You all are doing an excellent job with your discussion postings. You're doing a great job of not only reflecting on what you're reading, tying it to your own experiences, but also citing our course readings and information from lectures and video clips and that sort of thing. So keep up the good work. I was telling Dr. Crowder yesterday, I feel so blessed to have this particular group. You all are, I think, highly gifted, and you write well, and you're conscientious, and I'm so excited to be working with each of you. I hope you're having a wonderful long weekend and that you will have a terrific short work week this next week. All right, take care.